A top GOP advocacy group is kicking out the T in LGBT. Good. I stand with Clancy. This is the weirdest story. Accused child murderers support group is, believe it or not, actually gaining some traction. Uh, I know, but here we are. And when you really, really need a drink, very funny, quick video for you coming up at the end. Welcome in. Hello, it's the Jay Sheldon Show for Monday, Maryland. Good morning. Much love and praise the Lord. Oh, my goodness. The weekend is come and gone, and hopefully yours was good. Mine was just okay. Still dealing with the eczema and the dying toe and all that crap, but anyway, it's no point in talking about it. It's the same crap, never goes away. I'm tired of dealing with it. So we'll see. We'll go from there. All right. As I said, a top GOP gay advocacy group is dropping the T in LGBT, which it never should have been there in the first place. Not the movement we supported and fought for, is what they had to say. Do y'all remember the Log Cabin Republicans? It was established back in the late 70s to combat discrimination and intolerance against gays and lesbians and bisexuals. Melania Trump held a big fundraiser for LCR, Log Cabin Republicans, at Mar-a-Lago back in 2024 for her husband, then candidate, now president, of course, Donald Trump. If you don't know what the Log Cabin Republicans are about, 50 years ago, next year, the Log Cabin Republicans was founded on a very simple conviction that gay Americans who believed in limited government, individual liberty, equality, deserved equal protection under the law. And a little voice inside the Republican Party. From the start, the Log Cabin Republicans grounded their advocacy in constitutional principles, equal protection, limited government, individual freedom. It was basically gay, lesbian, and bisexual people who were more conservative. And that was what the Log Cabin Republicans were all about. Well, in 2015, they, and in my humble opinion, mistakenly added the letter T for transgender, and now they are questioning that whole transgender agenda. In fact, they are stepping back from it completely, any association with the T, and reverting to strictly working on behalf of the LGB. LCR president, after significant discussion with our membership, our board of directors voted to refine the Log Cabin Republicans' national advocacy focus to concentrate specifically on issues of sexual orientation and conservative values. In other words, we are an LGB advocacy organization, as our founders envision and our moral center calls us to be. Now, why would they do that? Well, Heminger explains it's about the weird focus that the movement has on children and promoting the rather unfair and incredibly unsafe practice of allowing men to compete against females in athletics. The transgender movement has ceased focusing on adults at all. Nearly all of their efforts and those of their aligned special interest groups on minors. They push, this is the Log Cabin Republican statement, they push schools to teach radical gender ideology. They want biological men in women's sports, regardless of the consequences. Perhaps most offensively, They support gender reassignment treatments for minors, often without the knowledge or the consent of parents. How often have we covered this topic on this show? They know full well that these treatments are, for the most part, irreversible. Now, it does not surprise me at all about this move. I'm just happy they took it. I want to hear a prominent politician speak at an event that Log Cabin sponsored a few years ago. An acquaintance has told me confidently that he and a number of his friends were going increasingly concerned, quote unquote, at the direction the T movement was taking in the LGBT part. He felt he didn't sign up for this. He said he didn't want to be painted with a critical brush because men and women's sports and surgeries for minors were never things that he advocated for. Heminger continued, echoing some of those very same themes. He says, however, the new era of gender identity politics is not the movement we supported and fought for. Gay men and women are losing public support across the country, and support for gay marriage and other once widely accepted rights is eroding. Why? Because many voters today weren't alive, not even cognizant of the fact that the politics of gay marriage was winding its way through the courts and gaining ground in public opinion. Their view of the gay community is based on today's radical transgender activists and their absolutely unnecessary and very discomforting focus on America's young people. Thank you, Log Cabin Republicans. Most people are not filled with hate, nor do they wake up hoping to discriminate against or assault people who are different from them. America is a remarkably tolerant country. It really is. Certainly, a lot of people are not comfortable with transgenderism. The majority, at least, willing to listen. But they wanted to do more than that, much, much, much more. And people started to get sick of it, frankly. The movement simply took it too far and continues to this very day to take it too far, changing the gender of kids often without parents' knowledge, accompanied by life changing surgeries, drugs. It's a bridge too far for most normal thinking people, and obviously morally wrong to any thinking human. Watching males steal sports trophies from females, injuring them, no thank you. This was especially galling after the fight that so many women fought to bring gender equality to athletics. Women have been fighting this fight forever, only to have it completely taken away from them. Instead of protecting women and girls with the Title IX, former President gender obsessed Biden used the 1972 Landmark Act to discriminate against them, push the ridiculous idea that boys beating up on girls is fair and moral. The Log Cabin Republicans have seen enough. They've had enough. And they've said, that's it. We represent LGB, and there ain't no T. Good on you, Log Cabin Republicans. Very good. Good morning, Danny. Hey, welcome in. Happy to have you along for the ride here. All right. That story is fantastic. I am very, very pleased to see at least one group. It's a very powerful group, by the way, these Log Cabin Republicans. Very happy to see them standing up and saying, you know what? That's it. We're done. No more. Good on you. All right. Hey, you remember that fight over the Muslim foot washing uh, stations? It was a while ago, and we did cover it. Now, wait till you see what happened at Dunkin'. Yeah, as in the donuts. A few weeks back, there was a furor over the plan to add Muslim foot washing stations to bathrooms at the Dallas Fort Worth airport. The plan was eventually scrapped after Texas Governor Greg Abbott intervened and said these ablution facilities appear designed to single out one of subset of the population for special treatment based on religion, and that is illegal. Now, these ablution stations, also called wudu, WUDU, wudu stations, they're all a part of the Islamic ritual that requires Muslims to wash their hands, face, arms, feet before their ritual prayer, which they do 5 times a day or more. Muslims moving through places like the Dallas Fort Worth airport apparently using ordinary bathrooms, putting their foot up on the sink and washing their feet, which is gross. One of the jurisdictions for installing the first foot washing stations is that travelers performing wudu were washing their feet in the ordinary bathroom sinks, which is disgusting and incredibly unhygienic. Can you imagine walking in on that? Furthermore, the feet washers apparently were leaving the restrooms covered in water as they strutted out with their nice, shiny, clean new feet. There's also the wear and tear on the counters after untold number of people have put their feet up on them. If you thought ordinary bathroom sinks were not the optimal place for ritual foot washing, well, New York City would like to have a word with you. A Dunkin' Donuts employee working at the Staten Island ferry terminal was caught on video taking things one very unhygienic step further, washing his feet not in the restaurant bathroom, but in a sink behind the counter at the coffee shop. There's a video of this. Let's play that for you now. Isn't that nice? Lovely. Very nice. Very nice. The video, apparently taken August 11th, quickly went viral on social media, and a lot of snarky comments, including one disgusted commentator asking, "Would you like feet with your donut?" Another one joked, "Is he on Feet Finder?" And a third one says, "Who needs a foot spa when you got Dunkin' Donuts?" The man's actions reportedly have caught the attention of the local health department. Health department said in a statement, the NYC Health Department promotes the safe handling of food in the restaurants so New Yorkers and visitors can dine without the fear of becoming ill. Restaurants are required to follow food safety requirements, said DOT NYC reviewing, and they're going to take appropriate action, whatever that might be. Duncan has not commented publicly on this since it became viral. Back in Texas, Governor Abbott's not done. Friday, he escalated matters considerably, referring both Dallas Fort Worth Airport and Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport to the Department of Justice for investigation over their existing ablution facilities. And the governor said Airports can no more offer Muslims the only bathroom spaces than they can maintain white only bathrooms. Exactly. Exactly. Good on you. Oh, man, a Chevets. Danny, I honestly wouldn't care after seeing how an ex coworker cleaned the Circle K bathroom. She used the same rag for everything. Yes, inside toilets too. I I was pregnant with AJ and I quit the next day. I can't say as I blame you. Oh my God. That's disgusting. Oh man, oh man. Oh, ugh, yuck. Give me the heebie-jeebies. Says I try at all costs to avoid public restrooms after that. I watch her clean the toilets, then move on to use the rag for the men's bathroom. Absolutely repulsive. Times 10. All right, Trump is ringing in the spectacular Freedom 250 Grand Prix, racing through D.C. Sunday kicked off the Freedom 250 Grand Prix in Washington, D.C. Washington. Check out this route, not to mention the speeds they're going to be going at. I hope I don't get a copyright hit for this, but it's a cool video. Check it out.
Here's the Honda track preview of this beautiful brand new DC street course right in front of the United States Capitol. And it's going to start right in front of us here in the booth along 3rd Street into a tricky break zone, 142 miles an hour when they get on the anchors and turn down that long pit straight of Pennsylvania Avenue. Big bumps on the brakes down from 175 miles an hour down to about 50 through 9th Street, 2nd and 3rd turn. And then you head on to Constitution Avenue by the National Archives, just one of many incredible monuments and incredible buildings that we circle around as we do a lap here in D.C.
But the drivers will have to stay focused on the track. They go through the only full right-hand corner, turn 4, then they hit 153, hard on the brakes for turn 5, and then shoot down to the final section, down Independence Avenue, past the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, one of my favorites. And then the trickiest break zone on the track, right here, turn 6. Huge bumps across the crosswalks. It's caused all kinds of chaos in practice. 7 completes a lap. It's 1.7 miles, and these drivers are about to be put to the test.
Wow. Holy crap. In downtown Washington. President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump were in attendance. They took a lap around the track in the Beast. Do we have that? Oh, we do. Let's play that because it's a cool video.
And a live look at the Beast. You heard the president talking about his plans. He will be in a special location, of course, watching this race along with us after greeting the drivers, the motorcade. Elio, if you had to drive the Beast, I wonder what those, I guess those guys.
How cool is that? One lap around the track. Right at the end of the lap, they also had a flyover, by the way, by Air Force One, some F-35 fighter jets, which was pretty incredible. I believe we have a cut of that too. Let's check it out. Cool. Boy, that beast looks incredible, doesn't it? That is amazing. There it is. Wow. Cool, cool, cool. Air Force One and some F-35s. Love it. Love it. 7 flyovers altogether. That was very cool. Trump started the race with a green flag, and American race car driver Kyle Kirkwood battled back and forth early with Alex Palou. Palou had all kinds of issues, did not finish. Whole bunch of cautions called. Kirkwood took the lead and eventually won. Wow. What a day for race fans. That is incredible. Love it. All right, folks, it's time to grab yourself a cup of your favorite morning beverage. That has to be Blackout coffee. Whoa, yeah, Blackout coffee. The best on the planet, best in this country, that's for damn sure. They grow the best beans. They work with American co ops and American farmers, and they pick the top 80, only beans rated 80 and above on a 100-point scale. They roast them only after you place your order and ship them out within 24 to 48 hours. So you know you've got a fresh roasted bag of beans there. If you can't grind your own, not a problem. They can grind them for you. They've got all kinds of great flavored coffee. They do coffee pods, cold brewed, instant coffees. It's a fantastic coffee. You just got to try it. Try a single bag. Head over to Blackout Coffee. The link is down in our description over there. And check them out. Use the code J20 if you're a first-time customer. You'll get 20% off your first order. And of course, they're always having great sales. Once you get come back for more, you're going to find some great deals at Blackout Coffee. John Santos and the gang. Thank you, John, and everybody at Blackout Coffee for helping to sponsor the show. All right. You know, this story, I haven't covered it because it just pisses me off, but I'm sure you've heard about it. I stand with Clancy, the accused child murderers support group is gaining traction. This is just unbelievable. God. A growing number of women are crashing out online over a child murder case that has turned into this sort of demented cause celeb. Now, let's not get it twisted. You can have sympathy for mothers. You can have sympathy for mothers who have postpartum problems. You can have sympathy for mothers who've been failed by a medical system. I'm sorry, though, I have a little bit of trouble having sympathy for mothers who strangle their own children with exercise resistant bands. Because when you turn into a heartless monster and a poster woman for your movement, you might have a bit of a problem. Just in case you have somehow been able to dodge this absolutely horrifying story. It was exposed in social media. Lindsay Clancy is on trial in Massachusetts on 3 counts of murder in the death of her children. Cora, age 5, Dawson, age 3, and Callian, age 8. Her lawyers do not dispute the fact that she strangled the children with exercise bands. January 2023. So we're not debating whether or not she killed her children. Clancy herself, not even disputing it. But this has become a battle over one simple question. Who's the victim? Her defense team is contesting whether she should be criminally responsible at the time, arguing she was suffering from postpartum psychosis. Doctors prescribed her a startling series of benzodiazepine derivative drugs and even an antipsychotic medication for sleep. Plenty of circumstantial evidence, however, that points in the direction of her having planned her children's execution, like sending her then husband Patrick out on errands, checking his travel time, the heinous manner in which she strangled one by one each one of her children. What happened outside the courthouse? It is something else entirely. Representative Nancy Mace recently drew attention to the online movement surrounding Clancy, where supporters have adopted slogans like, I Stand with Clancy, worn coordinated pink clothing, produced merchandise, flooded TikTok with videos presenting themselves as emotionally connected to her case. Wackadoodles like this one. There's no evidence, by the way, that Casey Anthony posted that meme, but the movement that's backing Lindsay Clancy is very real and very scary. Hundreds of women dressed in pink gathered outside the courthouse this week in support of Lindsay Clancy. She's a former labor and delivery nurse, believe it or not, wearing shirts with slogans like "Believe" and "She Needed Help." Supporters lined the street outside the Plymouth Superior Court in Massachusetts as Clancy's murder trial went into its final stages. But the phenomenon is even bigger online. Women have been posting videos of themselves holding their own babies and crying while excerpts from Clancy's writings play over the footage. Some have used captions like, "Same, Lindsay." Other posts have framed the case as something universally relatable to motherhood. There's even now a I Stand with Lindsay merchandise line of shirts and hats and stickers and mugs and socks and bags, all marketed as expressions of solidarity, compassion, and support. And then there's the money. A GoFundMe campaign was set up for Clancy's parents. It has blown past the $1 million mark. 31,000 over contributions as of Friday night. Fundraiser formerly intended to help Michael and Paula Musgrove cover the enormous expenses they've incurred relocating, supporting their daughter through years of court proceedings. There is nothing inherently objective about helping elderly parents who've watched their family absolutely collapse, no doubt about it. But 31,000 donations tell you something about the extraordinary emotional constituency that has formed around this case. The internet has taken a courtroom dispute over criminal responsibility and transformed it into something that looks like fandom. I understand the arguments being made that many of these women postpartum psychosis is very real. It is. It is very rare, and in severe cases, it can involve hallucinations, delusions, catastrophic behavior. Yes, agreed. Estimates commonly place their incidence at about 1 or 2 cases in every 1,000 births. Clancy's defense called forensic psychiatrist Philip Resnick, who testified he believed she was psychotic and unable to distinguish right from wrong when the killings occurred. But recognizing a psychotic condition is different from building a social movement around a person who killed 3 kids, her own. Something absolutely culturally sinister is going on. Social media rewards emotional extremism. It always has, and it likely always will. It rewards people for showing how compassionate they are, how understanding, how virtuous we can be. Apparently, saying 3 children were killed and their deaths should remain the center of the story is too straightforward for most people. You need a pink shirt, You need to be crying on TikTok. You need a slogan. And eventually the cause can become as detached as it can be from the actual victims in this case. This is not a new human impulse, unfortunately. Ted Bundy's 79 murder trial. Remember that, if you're old enough? Hundreds of young female spectators, some of whom openly admitted they were fascinated by Ted Bundy. Scholars studying true crime culture have documented the same kind of fan behavior behind Bundy, Richard Ramirez, Charles Manson, a whole lot of other notorious, infamous killers. Social media has just simply industrialized it. The difference now is that everyone gets to become a broadcaster just like me, an amateur psychiatrist, a detective, all at once. This Clancy phenomenon is basically forensic fandom. Online communities treating real, sad homicide cases like serialized TV mysteries, searching hidden clues, alternate villains, because the ugly reality is emotionally unsatisfying. Some Clancy supporters have even published theories accusing her former husband, Patrick, of killing the kids, despite surveillance and phone evidence that places him at a CVS when the killings occurred. We need to rebuild a culture that treats kids as something incredibly precious. Motherhood as unbelievably vital. And mental illness as something that requires serious treatment. And victimhood as something that is not universal. Whatever the jury ultimately decides about Lindsay Clancy's criminal responsibility, there is no dispute. The victims are the children who died at the hands of their mother. Danny says, my sister had such bad postpartum, she didn't like her second-born. She cried because she couldn't love her daughter. She even said she had terrible thoughts of leaving with her other son. She never did it, and this is the best mom to this day. Never did she think of harming her daughter. I can't even fathom. They are the best of friends to this day, and she would take a bullet for both kids. There you go. There you go. Oh, here's one. Can we get this to come up, please? Yeah. A Nashville hospital had a bit of a mix-up, and it wound up leaving multiple people, paralyzed. Every time I've gone in for 2 or 3 operations in the course of my whole life, and I always had general anesthesia because I can't stand the back thing and all that. It always scares me. The thing that scares me the most is that I'm going to get one of those, you always hear the horror stories where you supposedly go under, but you can still feel everything. Yeah, that's the one that scares the shit out of me. But a routine trip to the hospital for some joint replacement surgery turned into a medical nightmare for 4 patients in Nashville after a pharmacy at the hospital allegedly resulted in a mistake in the pharmacy, allegedly resulted in them receiving a potentially dangerous potassium compound instead of anesthesia. 2 patients reportedly have been left paralyzed. One remains on a ventilator, and multiple patients went into cardiac arrest following the August 14th incident at Ascension St. Thomas Hospital in Midtown. This is insane. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is now involved. According to the hospital, the 4 patients were supposed to receive mepivacaine, a local anesthetic commonly used during surgery. Instead, the pharmacy at the hospital gave them potassium phosphate in excessive amounts, or if it's administered too rapidly. Potassium can cause potentially fatal changes in heart rhythms and cardiac arrest. They acknowledged this error last Friday, quoting, "Our hearts remain entirely with the 4 patients and families impacted by the recent events at Ascension St. Thomas Hospital Midtown. On behalf of our leadership and care teams, we extend our deepest apologies for the harm caused." Well, that's quite the whoops, huh? Not clear if the apology will lead to damages paid for those who were harmed. WZTV reported the mistake originated inside the hospital's pharmacy. Ascension St. Thomas is revealing new details about the medication error, saying patients mistakenly received potassium phosphate instead of an anesthetic. Precisely how potassium phosphate would wind up getting substituted for mepivacaine, and what kind of safeguards failed to catch this before this drug wound up in 4 separate patients, that would be the obvious question for investigators. TBI also is elevating the matter beyond a normal hospital internal review, determine whether or not maybe there were some criminal charges that need to be assessed. No reported connection between the pharmacy and the head of the pharmacy, Dr. Shabhada Jakasia. Investigators reportedly seized roughly 100,000 fraudulent degrees, certificates, transcripts, and related documents from a network spanning at least 28 institutions. This happened after this summer, after Indian authorities uncovered a huge alleged academic fraud network involving dozens of universities. Wow. Really makes you think twice. Scary times. Either everybody matters or nobody matters in this Carmelo Anthony case, in case you need reminding. Carmelo Anthony had an argument worth hearing. His lawyers claimed an unwritten agreement between prosecutors, and his original defense team helped him off the witness stand during his murder trial. From Fox News, retired District Judge Michael Chitty denied Anthony's request after reviewing the motion, court record, evidence, arguments, briefs, relevant case law. The order did not detail his reason for the decision. It was just denied. This decision leaves Anthony's murder conviction and 35-year prison sentence in place. challenge going to be continued on direct appeal. Chitty heard 2 days of testimony in McKinney, Texas, after Judge Sid Harrell removed the judge who was presiding over Anthony's murder trial, Judge John Roach, from the remaining trial court proceedings earlier last week. He found the reasonable outside observer could question whether Roach appeared impartial after he publicly said the jury got it right and defended several of his trial decisions. Now, Anthony had planned to testify about the confrontation that ended with 17-year-old Austin Metcalf stabbed through the heart and dying. His attorneys believe the agreement would have keep damaging character evidence away from the jury, which was what he was trying to do, as long as Anthony was focused on what happened under the track meet tent. And then everything became a bit murky. Former defense attorney Mike Howard testified the prosecutors said near the end of the trial the agreement would not protect Anthony if he testified. Howard said the dispute contributed to Anthony's decision to remain silent. Under cross-examination, however, Howard acknowledged that nobody had expressly agreed that Anthony's testimony was covered. He also couldn't say that prosecutors acted in bad faith. Now, Senior District Court Judge Michael Chitty heard the arguments, denied Anthony's motion Saturday. He didn't provide any detailed reasoning behind that. Anthony's murder conviction, 35-year sentence, holds. His direct appeal continues. Fair enough. Anthony had every right to challenge his conviction. His attorney raised questions worthy of judicial review. Judge reviewed them, and he lost. Austin Metcalf, on the other hand, doesn't get another hearing. Yet something remarkable happened as Anthony's new trial fight unfolded. Information deliberately kept from the original jury suddenly spilled into the public view. Both teenagers had histories their lawyers had agreed to leave outside the courtroom. Anthony's, including threatening texts, an alleged stalking episode, violent messages to girlfriends, images involving firearms, and a message in which prosecutors said he fantasized about stabbing someone and licking the blood from the blade. Metcalf's record, including fighting, graffiti, bullying allegations, and claims involving racist language. Metcalf's record. Watch what happens to the language, though. One story written by CBS, closing out Saturday's ruling, described documents involving Metcalf as including a graffiti incident, his use of racial slurs, bullying, and assault allegations. Now, maybe Metcalf used racial slurs. Evidence presented at the hearing supports claims that perhaps he did. Words carry weight. Some conduct becomes a deliberate fact. Others, damaging material, received the soft shelter of allegations. But Anthony is alive. He got a trial, an attorney, a bunch of them, self-defense claim, a jury verdict, a 35-year sentence, a new legal team, a recusal victory, a 2-day hearing on his new trial motion, another judge's review. His direct appeal remains ahead, and none of those rights should be taken from him. Austin, on the other hand, deserves something too. His past doesn't need to be sanitized. Anthony doesn't need to be exaggerated either. You have to apply the same language, skepticism, standards, and humanity to both of them. Either everybody matters or nobody matters. That's a decision you've got to make. All right. One more before we bow out of here for the day. It's a very quick one, but there are sometimes, when you just need a drink. And when those times happen, you will do whatever it takes to get that drink. Oh my goodness. Are you crazy? Look at this. Look at this again. Look at that. He is barely holding on with a foot and maybe part of his tail. That's crazy. All right. But like I said, sometimes you just really need a drink. All right. Thanks for popping by, folks. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll be back again tomorrow for the Tuesday edition of the Jay Sheldon Show.